Recognize Representative Newhouse for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Benson, Ranking Member Huffman, for the opportunity to testify in support of my bill, H.R. 5504, which would repeal 3 Biden administration regulations from the Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA. First, I'd like to enter into the record a letter of support for my bill from the National Association of Home Builders and also thank them for their efforts on ESA reform. In 2019, key changes to the Endangered Species Act were finalized by the previous administration that added more flexibility for affected stakeholders while also ensuring species recovery plans have a tailored and targeted approach. We've all known for a long time that the ESA is indeed in need of reform, and these changes were celebrated as they clarified and simplified how the ESA worked. The first regulation that was changed was the elimination of the blanket rule under Section 4D that automatically provided endangered level protections to species that are only listed as threatened. The second 2019 revision was in relation to critical habitat and allowed the Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA to research and share the economic impacts of a listing determination under the ESA, while providing flexibility in defining critical habitat, allowing the agencies leeway to only designate unoccupied areas as critical habitat if necessary. The final change provided a more realistic and flexible approach by simplifying the interagency consultation process. The improved Section 7 consultation established standards to ensure effect analysis of the proposed actions were only limited to activities that are reasonably certain to occur, taking away the leeway for agencies to assume the worst-case scenarios for a species without clear and substantial information. But this past June, the Biden administration proposed 3 rules to reverse all that I just described. My bill before us today would prevent the administration from finalizing these proposals and retain the previous administration's changes. And I've said it many times, but for far too long, radical environmental activists have weaponized the ESA against farmers, ranchers, landowners, and rural communities, while recovering less than 3% of species listed over the last 50 years. The proposed rule from Biden's Fish and Wildlife Service will encourage further disruptions by activists and make it even more difficult for true conservationists to assist with species recovery. I believe we all have the same goal, to recover endangered species. We should not allow for this administration or any administration or the agencies to continue to make it impossible to recover species and remove them from the list, especially at the detriment of those farmers, ranchers, and landowners. As the chairman of the Western Caucus, I'm proud of this legislation, and I'm happy to introduce it alongside Chair of the Senate Western Caucus, Senator Lummis of Wyoming, to prevent these egregious rules from taking effect and to steer the ESA back to its intended purpose of helping species recover without being a barrier to prosperity for our rural communities. Once again, thank you, Chairman Benz, Ranking Member Huffman, for the opportunity to speak in support of my bill, and I yield back.